Reflection is like giving your program a mirror so that it can look at itself while it is running and understand its own structure, behavior, and components instead of blindly executing instructions that were fixed at compile time. And this ability makes Java programs far more flexible because they can inspect and adapt to different situations dynamically. At the center of this entire mechanism lies class, which can be thought of as a master blueprint or identity card for every type of object in Java, and this blueprint contains complete information about the class, including its name, its methods, its fields, its constructors, and even details like whether it is a class interface or enum. And once you have access to this blueprint, you can start asking it questions and interacting with it programmatically. There are three primary ways to obtain this class blueprint, and each one is useful in a different situation depending on what information you already have at runtime. And the first way is when you already have an object instance in your hand, in which case you can simply call .getClass on that object and it will return its blueprint, which is the most straightforward and commonly used approach. The second way is when you already know the class at compile time, and in this case you can directly use the class name followed by .class, such as robot.class, which immediately gives you the blueprint without needing to create an object, and this method is often used when you want metadata about a class without instantiating it. The third and most dynamic approach is when you only know the name of the class as a string at runtime, and here you use class.forName, which searches for the class using its fully qualified name and returns its blueprint. And this method is what truly unlocks the power of reflection, because it allows your program to work with classes that were not even known when the code was originally written. Once you have obtained this class object, it becomes like an intelligent assistant that you can interrogate by asking questions such as what is your name, what methods do you contain, what fields are defined inside you, what constructors can be used to create instances, and whether you represent a class interface or some other type. And based on this information, your program can make decisions dynamically and perform operations like creating objects, invoking methods, or modifying fields. To visualize this, imagine holding a detailed blueprint of a machine where instead of just seeing the outside, you can inspect every internal component, understand how it works, and even interact with different parts of it. And that is exactly what the class object provides, making reflection one of the most powerful and versatile features in Java for building dynamic, adaptable, and intelligent systems. Reflection in Java can be thought of as giving you almost superuser-level access to a class where you are no longer limited by the usual rules of visibility and encapsulation. And although Java is designed to strictly protect private variables so that they can only be accessed within their own class, reflection allows you to temporarily step outside those boundaries and interact with internal data in a controlled and programmatic way, which makes it extremely powerful, but also something that must be used with care. Under normal circumstances, if a variable is marked as private, it is completely hidden from other classes, and the only way to access or modify it is through public methods like getters and setters. But reflection changes this by allowing us to directly locate that variable using its name at runtime, and this is done through the help of class, which provides access to the internal structure of any class, including its private members. To find a specific variable, we use getDeclared field, where we pass the exact name of the field as a string, and this method searches the class and returns a field object which is represented by field, and this object acts like a handle that allows us to interact with that variable dynamically. However, even after finding the field, Java still enforces access control, so we cannot immediately read or modify it, and this is where setAccessible_True comes into play, because this method tells the JVM to temporarily ignore the private access modifier and allow us to interact with the field as if it were publicly accessible, which is like having a special override key that unlocks restricted access for a short time. Once access is granted, we can use methods like get to read the current value of the variable or set to change it to something new, and all of this happens at runtime without modifying the original class definition or using any direct method calls, which makes reflection incredibly flexible. To better understand this, imagine a locked personal drawer inside an office that normally only the owner can open, but a system administrator with special privileges can unlock it, inspect its contents, and even replace them if needed. And Reflection works in a very similar way by allowing controlled access to otherwise restricted parts of an object. This capability is especially useful in advanced tools such as debuggers, testing frameworks, serialization libraries, and dependency injection systems, where it is necessary to inspect or modify internal state automatically without requiring the developer to manually expose every detail through public methods. At the same time, it is important to remember that while reflection is extremely powerful, it should be used responsibly, because breaking encapsulation can lead to fragile code security risks or unexpected side effects if misused, so it is best reserved for situations where its flexibility is truly required rather than for everyday programming tasks. This example demonstrates another powerful aspect of Java reflection, where instead of working with methods, we directly access and modify variables even if they are marked as private, which normally means they are completely hidden from outside code and cannot be touched directly. But reflection allows us to bypass these restrictions and interact with them dynamically at runtime. We begin by creating an object of the secretAgent class, which contains a private variable called name initialized to James Bond, and under normal circumstances this variable would be inaccessible from outside the class because Java enforces strict access control to protect internal data and maintain encapsulation. Next, we obtain the class blueprint of this object using getClass, which gives us access to all the structural details of the class, and this blueprint is represented by class, which acts like a complete map of everything defined inside the class, including its private fields. Using this blueprint, we then call getDeclaredField and pass the name of the variable as a string, which is name, and this allows us to locate that specific field inside the class regardless of its access level, and once found, it is represented by a field object which is modeled by field, and this object gives us the ability to read or modify the value of that variable dynamically. However, since the field is private, Java will not allow us to access it directly, so we call setAccessible true, which instructs the JVM to temporarily ignore the access control rules and allow us to interact with this field as if it were public, and this step is what effectively unlocks the variable for modification. After gaining access, we use the set method on the field object, where we provide the target object agent and the new value Johnny English, and this operation directly changes the value of the private variable inside the object even though we never accessed it through a setter method or public interface. Finally, when we call get on the same field object, it retrieves the updated value from the object and prints it, confirming that the private field has been successfully modified at runtime. To visualize this, imagine a secure locker that has a label saying "Do not open," but with special administrative tools you are able to unlock it, access its contents, and even replace what is inside without following the usual rules, and that is exactly what reflection is doing here by giving you deep control over the internal state of objects. This capability is extremely useful in advanced scenarios such as debugging, testing frameworks, serialization libraries, and dependency injection systems, where internal data needs to be accessed or modified dynamically, but it must be used carefully because bypassing encapsulation can break the intended design of a class and lead to unexpected behavior if not handled responsibly. Just like reflection allows us to discover and work with variables dynamically, it also gives us the powerful ability to locate and execute methods at runtime, which is known as dynamic invocation, and this means that instead of directly calling a method in the usual way where everything is fixed at compile time, we can decide which method to run while the program is already executing based on names provided as strings or other runtime information. The process begins by using methods from the reflection system to search for a specific method inside a class, and for this we rely on class, which acts as a gateway to all the structural details of a class, and by calling getDeclaredMethod we provide the exact name of the method as a string along with the types of its parameters so that Java can accurately identify the correct method even if there are multiple methods with similar names. Once the method is found, we receive a method object which is represented by method, and this object is like a handle or remote control that allows us to interact with that method programmatically, and instead of directly calling the method in code, we use this object to trigger its execution. To actually run the method, we call .invoke on the method object, and this step is very important because we must explicitly tell Java two things: first, which object instance should execute the method, and second, what arguments need to be passed to it. And once we provide this information, the method is executed just as if it had been called normally. What makes this concept truly remarkable is that the program does not need to know about the method at the time it was written, because everything is decided dynamically at runtime, which opens the door to highly flexible and extensible systems where behavior can be added or modified without changing the original source code. A perfect real-world example of this is a plugin system where a core application is designed to load and execute additional modules or plugins that were not even created when the main program was originally developed, and using reflection the program can discover new classes, find their methods, and invoke them dynamically, allowing entirely new functionality to be integrated seamlessly. To visualize this, imagine a smart control system where instead of having fixed buttons you can type the name of any function into a console and the system will locate the correct control mechanism and execute it instantly even if that function was added later. And this is exactly how dynamic invocation works, making Java programs far more adaptable, powerful, and capable of evolving over time without needing constant recompilation. This example demonstrates how Java Reflection allows us not only to inspect classes but also to access and execute methods dynamically, even if those methods are marked as private and normally hidden from the outside world, which makes Reflection an extremely powerful but also sensitive tool because it can bypass the usual access control rules of Java. In the program, we begin by creating a normal object of the simple calculator class in the usual way, and then we obtain its class blueprint using getClass, which gives us access to all the structural information about that class, including its methods, fields, and constructors. And this blueprint is represented by class, which acts like a complete map of everything defined inside the class. Next, we want to locate a specific method named sayHello, which takes a single parameter of type string, and since this method is private, it cannot be accessed using normal method calls. So instead, we use getDeclaredMethod, which is a special reflection method that allows us to search for any method inside the class regardless of its access modifier, and we provide both the method name and its parameter type string.class so that Java can precisely identify the correct method. Once we retrieve the method, we now have a method object which represents that specific function, and this is modeled by method, which gives us the ability to interact with and execute that method dynamically. But at this stage, Java still enforces access control, meaning we cannot invoke it yet because it is private. To overcome this restriction, we call setAccessible_true, which essentially tells the JVM to temporarily ignore Java's access checks and allow us to use the method even though it is private, and you can think of this as having special permission to open a locked door that is normally off limits. Finally, we call invoke on the method object, where we pass the instance on which the method should run, which is calc, and the argument professor, which gets forwarded as the parameter to the sayHello method. And at this point, the method executes just like a normal method call and prints the greeting message even though we never directly called it in the usual way. To understand this, intuitively imagine a situation where a machine has a hidden control panel that regular users cannot access, but with special tools and instructions you are able to locate that hidden panel, unlock it, and press a specific button to trigger an action. And that is exactly what Reflection is doing here by allowing us to find, access, and execute a private method dynamically. This capability is widely used in advanced frameworks, testing libraries, and debugging tools where accessing internal behavior is sometimes necessary, but it must be used carefully because bypassing access control can lead to security risks or unintended side effects if not handled properly. So, while reflection is incredibly powerful, it should always be used with clear understanding and caution. Normally in Java, we create objects in a very direct and straightforward way using the new keyword where the class name is already known at compile time, such as writing new robot, and the compiler clearly understands exactly what kind of object needs to be created and how it should behave. But this approach becomes limiting in situations where the exact class to be used is not known until the program is already running, which often happens in real-world applications that rely on user input, configuration files, plugins, or external systems. This is where reflection comes into play as a powerful mechanism that enables dynamic object creation, allowing a program to discover and use classes at runtime rather than being restricted to what was fixed during compilation. And instead of hardcoding the class name, we can treat it like data such as a string and then use that string to locate the class blueprint, inspect its structure, find its constructors, and finally create an instance of it dynamically. At the center of this process is class, which acts like a master blueprint or metadata container for any class in Java, and by using methods like forName we can search for a class using just its name in text form, and once we obtain this blueprint we gain access to its constructors, methods, and fields, giving us the ability to interact with it programmatically even if we had no prior knowledge of it at compile time. After locating the class, we then identify the constructor that we want to use and call new instance, which actually creates the object in memory. And although the object is initially returned as a generic object type, we can cast it to the appropriate class if needed and then use it just like any normal object, which means we have successfully created an instance without ever directly writing the class name in the code. To visualize this concept, imagine a highly advanced factory where instead of walking in and manually selecting a product, you simply send a text message with the name of the item you want, and the factory automatically looks up the design, builds the product, and delivers it to you instantly without you needing to know how it was constructed internally. And this is exactly how dynamic object creation through reflection works in Java. This capability is extremely important in modern software development because many popular frameworks such as Spring Framework and Hibernate rely heavily on reflection to create objects, inject dependencies, and manage application components dynamically, which allows developers to write more flexible, modular, and configurable applications where behavior can be changed without modifying the core codebase. So overall, reflection transforms object creation from a fixed compile time activity into a dynamic runtime process, making Java applications far more adaptable, powerful, and capable of handling complex real-world scenarios where flexibility is essential. This example demonstrates one of the most powerful and dynamic features of Java, known as reflection, where instead of directly creating objects using the usual new keyword, we describe what we want using text at runtime and let the program figure out how to construct and use the object, which makes the code far more flexible and adaptable, especially in frameworks, libraries, or systems where the exact classes may not be known beforehand. At the beginning, we simply store the name of the class as a string, which in this case is robot, and this might seem very basic, but it is actually the key idea behind reflection, because instead of hardcoding the class, we are treating it like data that can be changed dynamically at runtime depending on user input, configuration files, or external systems. Next, we use class.forName, which acts like a search mechanism that looks into the Java runtime environment and finds the blueprint of the class whose name matches the string we provided, and this blueprint contains all the information about the class, including its constructors, methods, and fields. So at this point, we have not created an object yet, but we have successfully located the design of the robot class. Once we have this blueprint, we move to the next step where we call getConstructor, which retrieves the default constructor of the class, and then we immediately call newInstance on it, which actually creates a new object in memory. And this step is essentially doing the same job as writing new robot, but the important difference is that it is happening dynamically through reflection rather than being directly written in the code. However, since reflection works in a very general way, the object we get back is of type object, which is the parent of all classes in Java. So to actually use it as a robot, we need to explicitly cast it back to the robot type, and once we do that, we can call its methods normally just like any other object. Finally, when we call the wave method, the robot prints its message showing that the object was successfully created and used, even though we never directly wrote new robot anywhere in the code, which clearly demonstrates how reflection allows programs to create and interact with classes dynamically at runtime. To understand this in a more intuitive way, imagine you are in a factory where instead of manually assembling a machine by name, you simply provide a label or instruction sheet that says build a robot, and the system automatically finds the design blueprint, constructs the machine, and hands it over to you ready to use. And that is exactly what reflection is doing behind the scenes, making your program more flexible, powerful, and capable of handling dynamic scenarios. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this explanation helped you clearly understand the Reflection API and its core components in a structured and easy way. Continue learning, keep practicing, and stay consistent with your preparation. More detailed concepts are coming next.